Chapter 1, The Americas, Europe and Africa before 1492, Notes and Summary from US History. Introduction. Before 1492, the Americas, Europe and Africa already had rich and complex societies. The chapter explains that growing contact among regions increased as Europeans searched for better trade routes to Asia. At the same time, the Americas were home to many advanced civilizations, and West Africa had important empires and trade systems of its own. 1.1 The Americas. The Americas. Many scholars believe the first people reached the Americas by crossing Virginia, a land bridge between Asia and North America, and later spread across North and South America. Over time, agriculture helped people form permanent settlements and complex societies, especially in Mesoamerica. The first Americans, the Olmec were the mother culture of Mesoamerica. They lived along the Gulf Coast of Mexico from about 1200 BCE to 400 BCE. They developed trade, religion, art, and early writing traditions that later influenced the Maya and Aztec. The Olmec are especially known for their huge stone heads, aqueducts, and farming of maize, squash, beans, and tomatoes. The Maya. The Maya flourished from about 2000 BCE to 900 CE in present-day Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and Guatemala. They made major advances in mathematics, writing, astronomy, and calendars. They built city-states such as Copan, Tikal, and Chichen Itza, along with temples, pyramids, and observatories. Their civilization later declined, probably because of poor soil and long drought. The Aztec. The Aztec built a powerful empire centered on Tenochtitlan, founded in 1325 on the island in Lake Texcoco. By 1519, it had more than 200,000 people and was one of the largest cities in the world. The city had markets, aqueducts, public buildings, and chinampas or floating gardens. Aztec religion included many gods and ritual human sacrifice. The Aztec predict the coming of the Spanish. The chapter includes a story from Aztec writings describing omens and dreams before the arrival of the Spanish. These signs suggested disaster and show how important prophecy and omens were in Aztec culture. The Inca. The Inca built the largest empire in pre-Columbian South America. Their empire stretched from present-day Colombia to Chile. They created a huge road system, used chassis runners for communication, and kept records with quipu, a system of knots and strings. Their ruler controlled labor through the meta system. The Inca also built terraced farms, rope bridges, and stone cities like Machu Picchu. Native Americans. North American native societies were more spread out than the Maya, Aztec, and Inca. Many groups combined farming with hunting and gathering. In the southwest, the Pueblo peoples built permanent villages. Important Pueblo groups included the Mogollon, Hohokam, and Anasazi. The Anasazi are especially remembered for their cliff dwellings. Other important North American cultures included Hopewell, known for trade networks and burial mounds; Cahokia, the largest population center in North America around 1100 CE, with many earthen mounds and strong regional influence. Native peoples of the Eastern Woodland. Eastern Woodland peoples lived in small tribal or clan groups rather than large centralized empires. They adapted closely to their environments. Women often had major authority in these societies, and many were matriarchal. Women farmed corn, beans, and squash, while men hunted and fished. A major later conflict with Europeans came from different ideas about land ownership. Native peoples generally did not view land as private property, while Europeans saw land as wealth to be owned and used. 1.2 Europe on the brink of change. Europe on the brink of change. After the fall of Rome and before the Renaissance, Europe went through the Middle Ages. It was a time of political disorder, local warfare, and strong dependence on lords and the church. The Black Death later killed a huge part of Europe's population, but by 1450 Europe was recovering and changing rapidly. Life in feudal Europe. Feudal society was based on land and protection. Lords owned land, knights gave military service, serfs worked the land in return for protection. This was a mutually supportive system, but life for serfs was very hard. Most people lived in poverty, faced disease and hunger, and had short lives. The church and society. The Christian church was the strongest institution in medieval Europe. It shaped religion, education, politics, and daily life. After the Great Schism of 1054, Christianity split into Eastern and Western branches, but the Roman Catholic Church remained dominant in Western Europe. Priests guided people's spiritual lives, and even kings feared the Pope's power. Christianity encounters Islam. Islam began in the 7th century and spread quickly across the Middle East, North America, and into Spain. Muslim rule in Spain created important centers of learning and trade, such as Cordoba. Conflict between Christians and Muslims became a major force in European history. Jerusalem and the Crusades. The Crusades were wars launched by European Christians to retake Jerusalem and the Holy Lands from Muslim control. They caused terrible violence and deepened hatred between Christians, Muslims, and Jews. At the same time, they increased contact between Europe and the East, expanding trade in silk, spices, and other goods. Cities such as Venice grew rich from this trade. The Iberian Peninsula. Portugal and Spain became leading centers of exploration. Portugal, helped by Prince Henry the Navigator, explored the African coast with new ships called caravels. In Spain, the marriage of Ferdinand and Isabella united major kingdoms. They completed the Reconquista in 1492 by defeating Muslim rule in Grenada, and they also forced unconverted Jews to leave Spain. Americana. Motives for European exploration. The chapter gives the classic motives for exploration as God, glory, and gold. Spreading Christianity, gaining fame and honor, finding wealth and trade routes. These motives pushed Portugal and Spain to search for direct sea routes to Asia and the Spice Islands. Columbus's voyage in 1492 came from this same spirit of exploration. 1.3 West Africa and the role of slavery. West Africa. West Africa before 1492 was diverse in geography, language, and cultures. Many people lived in villages and identified strongly with family and clan. Trade along major rivers connected inland and coastal regions. Islam also shaped politics and trade across much of the region. The major African empires. Three important West African empires were Ghana, rose by taxing trade, especially in gold and salt, became wealthy and powerful through control of resources. Next, Mali replaced Ghana by about 1200 CE, became famous under Mansour Musa. Timbuktu became a major center of Islamic learning, commerce, and the slave trade. Next, Songhay later replaced Mali, expanded under leaders such as Sonni Ali, became the dominant power in West Africa by around 1500. The role of slavery. Slavery existed in Africa before European colonization, but it was different from later New World slavery. People could become enslaved in exchange for protection because of debt, through war, sometimes through chattel slavery in limited forms. In many African societies, enslaved people could become part of the extended family, and slavery was not always permanent or inherited. Arab traders had long been involved in the slave trade before Europeans arrived. The beginnings of racial slavery. When Europeans began colonizing the New World, the demand for labor increased sharply. In the Americas, slavery changed into a race-based, permanent, inherited system. Africans were targeted because they were already part of existing slave trade networks, were easily identified by skin color, and were seen by Europeans as a labor source for plantations. This was very different from most earlier African slavery systems. Summary. Before 1492, the Americas, Europe, and Africa all had advanced and diverse societies. In the Americas, the Olmec, Maya, Aztec, and Inca built important civilizations, while North American native peoples developed rich regional cultures such as the Pueblo, Hopewell, Cahokia, and Eastern Woodland societies. Europe was shaped by feudalism, the church, the Crusades, and growing trade, which encouraged exploration. In West Africa, powerful empires such as Ghana, Mali, and Songhai grew through trade and Islamic influence. Slavery already existed in Africa and elsewhere, but in the Americas it became a new and harsher system based on race, permanence, and inheritance. Altogether, this chapter shows that long before Columbus, these regions already had strong histories that shaped the modern Atlantic world. Next, key terms: Beringia, an ancient land bridge linking Asia and North America; Black Death, two strains of the bubonic plague that simultaneously swept Western Europe in the 14th century, causing the death of nearly half the population. Next, Chesques, Incan relay runners used to send messages over great distances. Next, chattel slavery, a system of servitude in which people are treated as personal property to be bought and sold. Next, chinampas, floating Aztec gardens consisting of a large barge woven from reeds, filled with dirt and floating on the water, allowing for irrigation. Next, Crusades, a series of military expeditions made by Christian Europeans to recover the Holy Land from the Muslims in the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries. Next, feudal society, a social arrangement in which serfs and knights provided labor and military service to noble lords, receiving protection and land use in return. Inquisition, a campaign by the Catholic Church to root out heresy, especially among converted Jews and Muslims. Next, Quran, the sacred book of Islam believed by Muslims to be the word of God, dictated to Muhammad through an angel in the 7th century. Next, matriarchy, a society in which women have political power. Next, meta, the Incan labor tax, with each family donating time and work to communal projects. Next, polygyny, the practice of taking more than one wife. Next, quipu, an ancient Incan device for recording information consisting of variously colored threads knotted in different ways. Next, reconquista, Spain's nearly 800-year holy war against Islam, which ended in 1492. Next, serf, a peasant tied to the land and its lord. So friends, we have completed notes and summary of chapter 1, the Americas, Europe and Africa before 1492. We will do all the question answers of this chapter in a separate video. If you like the video, kindly like, hype the video and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to receive new video notifications. We will meet in the next video. Thank you for watching.